Welcome back to Rainbow Nation Radio, where we explore South Africa through American eyes. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jessica. Today we're diving into yet another troubling episode from the YouTube channel Citizen Concerned, hosted by Katlego. Their latest video, Payday is Here, is another attempt to frame Black South Africans as the root cause of their own struggles, while conveniently ignoring the real systemic barriers keeping people in poverty.
This one is particularly infuriating. The video is framed as a critique of financial responsibility, but when you break it down, it's nothing more than a well-crafted attack on Black communities. The entire episode shames Black South Africans for their spending habits.
Finally, January is coming to an end. Month end is upon us and it's the weekend. So we can't just be sitting at home and doing nothing. We just got paid, so we have to do something exciting. And by exciting, I mean alcohol and loud music. Standard, right? This is a very important message, one that I think every South African needs to hear. Guys, this prevalent party culture will leave you with nothing at the end of your life. Looking forward to paydays and weekends for the sake of partying is a perfect recipe for the destruction of families, communities, and countries. We saw it again this December, right? Oh, these are the common phrases. Get December. I get it. What were some of the results of this hype? Arrests.
The Road Traffic Management Corporation says most offenders over the holiday season were arrested for drunk driving, speeding,
death.
At least 202 people have died on Gauteng roads since the 1st of December. The province's traffic department says this is a huge increase in fatalities compared to the same time last year. Drinking and driving as well as speeding were the biggest contributors to these fatalities.
Waste.
The festive season is usually a time of high alcohol consumption. December last year saw South Africans spending a staggering 7.7 billion rand on alcohol.
Painting them as reckless consumers who blow their money on alcohol and partying while failing to build wealth.
As for many people, social drinking's always been a big part of my life. Then last year, I took a hard look at quite how much I was putting away.
Okay, yesterday I had 4 pints of Guinness.
Death.
Plus 4 bottles of beer before dinner.
Death.
Oh, bloody hell, that's 8 pints, not including wine yesterday.
I realised I'd gone and damaged my health.
Waste.
You're at risk of disease progression to cirrhosis, end-stage liver disease, and liver failure.
Why is it we understand public health messages like eating 5 a day and stopping smoking, but never quite get our heads round what doctors say is...
Meanwhile, it completely ignores the actual economic exploitation at play, like white-owned corporations pushing excessive alcohol consumption for profit.
Right. And what makes it even worse is the way Katlego uses conservative economist Thomas Sowell's rhetoric to push the false idea that Black economic struggles are solely due to cultural failings.
Why is it that some groups, arriving with nothing but the clothes on their backs, rise to prosperity within a generation, while others struggle for decades? What makes one society flourish, while another flounders? These are the questions I've spent a lifetime trying to answer. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: culture matters. And at the heart of culture is something simple, yet profound: work ethic. When I wrote Ethnic America, I studied how immigrants from vastly different backgrounds came to the United States. Take the Chinese immigrants who arrived in California during the gold rush. They faced unimaginable hardships, discrimination, grueling labor, and an unfamiliar land. Yet within decades, their children were outperforming others in schools, and their businesses were thriving. What made the difference? A relentless work ethic, passed down through generations, rooted in the values of discipline and sacrifice. This isn't unique to the Chinese either. Across the globe, cultures that emphasize work and family have repeatedly defied the odds.
In each and every workplace is a bunch of people who never stop talking about alcohol. When you greet them on Mondays, the first thing they tell you every Monday is that they have a babalas. For some, I mean Tuesday, because that is a Monday. They always miss work. They're always losing their phone, getting mugged, always getting beaten or injured in some way at least once a year. And of course, they are always asking for loans from the workplace mashonisa. The excuse for being the loan shark's regular customer is that I don't make enough money. They pay me too little. Yet the same group of people who don't make enough money managed to spend over 17 billion rands on alcohol in just 1 month. Not 17 billion rands putting together to build an orphanage, a library, a block of flats to rent out, or any asset that will yield profits. No, 17 billion rands on alcohol that went down the toilet.
January for who? Yeah? January for who? January for what? Huh? Yeah? What's wrong in
December 2.0.
Oh, season 2 of December. Season 2 of December.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a cockneck. January for who?
And we want to introduce you to one of our boys. Steve will do it.
What's up?
What's good, baby?
What's up, man? What's up, the vlog people? Got some Ronas.
Cheers.
You want to slam that? Yeah. Holy shit. This guy fucks.
Steve, he's literally the Zen god, man. You guys want to see the craziest drinking challenges? And I mean fucking crazy. Go to his Instagram, @SteveWillDoIt. We're gonna do a bunch of drinking shit today. We're gonna go to UCLA. Go comment on his Instagram right now. Tell him to do something fucked up. I swear to God, he'll fucking do it.
And you know what's worse? Many see nothing wrong with it. In fact, they are very proud of themselves and are even pledging to spend even more on alcohol in December 2025. How sad is that?
In our ongoing look at treating substance abuse in America, we turn now to the most commonly used drug and one of the deadliest, alcohol. Drinking kills more Americans every year than opioids or any other illegal drug. But as William Brangham reports, promising treatments that could help people curb their drinking are barely being used.
Do you want a little salad dressing?
Sure. Over the last few years, especially after she retired, Cindy Funke-Lee felt like she was drinking too much. She said nobody else noticed, not her husband or their kids, but she did, and she just couldn't stop.
Trying to dial it back on my own was really difficult. I would go through this cycle. So I would drink a little bit too much. Then I would wake up with like, okay, fine, I'm not going to drink for a while. So that night I wouldn't drink. And then it's like 2 days later, it's like, I can have a glass, and it would just set things off again.
And you could never do just one.
I couldn't do just one. It was really difficult to do just one. One would make me want another one. It's like a monkey on my back. It's like, I don't want to be thinking about this all the time.
How sad is that?
She repeatedly compares Black South Africans to Asian immigrants, implying that Black people just don't work as hard or have the same discipline.
Why, that is a culture being pushed there, and that is the life we are seeking. Due to this culture, people are wasting their hard-earned money on getting drunk and having expensive stuff that they cannot afford. We could learn a culture of delayed gratification and focus from these youngsters and their parents.
In Singapore, the cultural emphasis on work ethic is reinforced by policies that reward effort and innovation. Education is prioritized, businesses are encouraged to thrive, and individuals are held accountable for their own success. The result? An economy that has not only grown, but has also lifted millions out of poverty.
It's a racist dog whistle, Chris. She's suggesting that Black South Africans are lazy without actually saying it outright.
That's the trick, isn't it? By selectively quoting Sowell, she shifts blame entirely onto Black communities while absolving white South Africans of responsibility for historical economic oppression, systemic inequalities, and corporate exploitation. She talks about Black financial habits, but never once mentions the major banks that denied Black South Africans access to generational wealth for decades, or the massive disparities in wages and business ownership.
Africa's property market is far from transformed, even in the affordable housing market. That's according to the Department of Human Settlements. South Africans earning between 3,500 rand all the way up until 22,000 rand increasingly have difficulty accessing home loans due to rising inflation and high interest rates. That's also drive up the cost of living and their reliance on debt. Well, the department further revealed that Black applicants are twice as likely to have their applications rejected. Government is now considering introducing interventions to improve affordability and transforming the sector.
How sad is that?
And it gets even more disturbing when you realize this isn't just Katlego speaking her mind. This is a coordinated agenda. The show is a registered company with a bank account and donation system, meaning it is profiting off of anti-Black narratives. And let's be honest, who is funding this? Who benefits from a channel that pushes Black people to blame themselves instead of looking at the real power structures keeping them in economic hardship?
Exactly. And let's talk about Katlego's role as a Black host. She's being used as a front to shield the real agenda from accusations of racism.
How sad is that?
This is a common strategy employed by the Democratic Alliance and ultra-right Afrikaner lobby group AfriForum. Put a Black person in front of a camera to criticize their own people, and suddenly, white supremacist rhetoric looks like self-criticism rather than an external attack. It's manipulative.
And speaking of manipulation, let's talk about how this episode manufactures outrage over Black spending habits while ignoring the white corporations profiting from it. They keep citing a 17 billion rand December alcohol expenditure, but they never once named Johann Rupert's breweries and liquor store chains profiting off Black consumers.
The Ruperts also partially control two of South Africa's largest wine merchant houses. Stellenbosch Farmers Winery, SFW, and Distillers Corporation, who together produce one of every 6 bottles of wine in South Africa and nearly 80% of the country's brandy. These two companies have merged to form Distel Group Limited.
How sad is that? Forgetting how much money they drowned in alcohol in December, January, they complain about the cost of stationery, uniform, and school fees. Let's not even mention rent and fuel or taxi fare to get to work. When they come out of the December fog, they're asking family and friends for loans. They are pawning items simply to get to the end of the month. They are in close contact with the loan sharks. The TV you bought a few months back is being pawned for less than half of what it was purchased for.
They don't mention how corporations like MultiChoice DSTV target Black townships with aggressive marketing, or how liquor stores are disproportionately placed in Black areas compared to white suburbs.
Does the research take a look at why people drink?
Well, I think there are many factors. Obviously, we know there are lots of social pressures, but the price of alcohol is very cheap in this country. There's quite aggressive marketing and very little controls on marketing in the country. And if we look at the availability of alcohol, much of the alcohol is sold through unregulated outlets, often 24 hours a day. So it's cheap, it's readily available, and it's highly marketed.
How sad is that? The children are looking at us and they need to see examples of disciplined boldness. Every weekend, the children know that mom and dad go out and come back at 2 o'clock in the morning. When it is December, it's even worse. We hardly see mom and dad. When we see children as young as grade 1 dancing on tables, where do they learn that from? That is club behavior, shebeen behavior that entered their homes and they are now exporting it into schools. The culture we encourage in homes ends up in schools, influencing other people's children and therefore more of our society.
Do you want a drink?
Fine, thank you.
You fine? Okay.
The culture we encourage in homes ends up in schools.
Getting a death stare, bro. I don't
in music behavior and small brains.
Okay.
Choosing to be a nation of drinkers and dancers, miniskirts and wastefulness results in the entire nation becoming a shebeen.
And Distillers Corporation, who together produce 1 of every 6 bottles of wine in South Africa and nearly 80% of the country's brandy.
Results in the entire nation becoming a shebeen.
Get them early.
I'm getting them.
If Katlego was truly concerned about black economic growth, she'd be calling out those corporations, not the consumers. Instead, she pushes this false crisis narrative that black South Africans are their own worst enemy. And let's not forget the final gut punch of the episode. After shaming black people for how they spend their money, she asks them to donate to her channel. That is peak manipulation. Guilt them into believing they're wasting their money. Then tell them the best way to use it is to support Citizen Concerned.
As always, I would really appreciate it if you press that like button, shared this video with other citizens, and of course, subscribed. Please feel free to take it a step further by joining our membership or donating to our account. The details are in the description below.
It's the ultimate con, Chris. She spends the entire video shaming black people and then asks for their financial support. It's like, stop spending money on things you enjoy. But hey, donate to my anti-black platform. But Chris, seeing as Katlego deliberately left out the liquor industry stakeholders, who are the actual distributors of alcoholism to the black citizens, what do you think about us naming them right now?
Sounds like a very good plan to me. Go right ahead, Jessica.
Joe, roll the tape of that ENCA news interview where Tula Sizwe Simelane interviewed Angela Russell of the Drinks Federation of South Africa. And let's all not forget to take note that she is a white Caucasian woman.
To this now, the Drinks Federation of South Africa has been launched to bring together for the first time the entire drinks industry. It will serve as a platform, we are told, for engagement with policymakers, regulators, media and community partners. To tell us more about it is the Federation's CEO, Angela Russell, who joins me now in studio. Angela, thank you for coming through. So the key question someone may ask is that there are many organizations that represent alcohol producers, retailers, etc. Why this particular organization at this point?
So I think what has happened is out of COVID-19, you saw that there wasn't necessarily one industry body that spoke on behalf of the entire drinks industry. What we have done is brought together the beer, wine, spirits, organizations of all shapes and sizes to come together. We are the one voice who is going to speak on behalf of the industry.
So, Chris, what do you make of this?
Well, clearly from this, it's the white people who are running well-coordinated efforts to sell as much liquor as possible. You heard for yourself the names of the multi-million rand liquor dealers she is representing.
It is a very competitive industry and it has taken a huge amount of effort to get the CEOs together. So the founding members of the Drinks Federation of South Africa are DGB, Distel, Diageo, Pernod Ricard, Heineken and South African breweries. So they are very competitive in the market, but they have absolutely seen the need to come together and look at the issues that we need to work on and speak with one voice for the industry.
These are the people Katlego and Citizen Concerned are protecting, while they denigrate the perception of black people. It's classic neo-Nazi and Illuminati moves. Sell them alcohol, get rich, and scorn them using a rented black neo-Nazi woman once their communities have been filled with domestic violence and disorientation.
And here comes the key question from Tula Sizwe. He is about to ask if the Drinks Association of South Africa and its white owners have formed in retaliatory response to the government's plans to increase the legal age of consumption to 21. Basically asking whether Angela agrees for the age of consumption to be raised to prevent underage drinking. Listen to her answer.
What will you say to a skeptic who says this is the industry being reactive to the liquor amendment bill and some of the more stringent proposals that are contained therein, the raising of the age limit for consuming alcohol from 18 to 21. By the way, do you have a consolidated view on this liquor amendment bill. Are you for it, against it?
So I think at this point in time, we haven't really formed any policies.
Sure.
But I think the policy discussions need to have evidence-based. So I think research does need to be done to say what is the position what is the position of over 21 drinking, what kind of impact has it had around the world, but also specific to South Africa. But I think policies is only one part of it. We need to come together, we need to have enforcement, we need to have community members assisting people to ensure that we're having those responsible consumption discussions.
Wow. So she is clearly not in support of raising the consumption age. But she avoided stating that clearly for the audience to spot. Instead, she waffled around pointing to programs here and there to train people how to drink responsibly. Angela and the Drinks Federation are wolf in sheep clothing, just like Katlego and Citizen Concerned. Imagine a group of white liquor capitalists coming together to try and reduce the sales, distribution, and demand of their products. It's pathetic. But Jessica, I'm wondering what she thinks about the advertising and marketing of liquor in South Africa, and the possibility of banning advertising like cigarettes. Was that ever brought up in the interview?
Yes, it was, Chris. Here is that segment of the interview.
All these issues around advertising and restricting that. We've seen what has happened with the tobacco industry since that bill was passed all those years ago, in that you no longer see advertising for tobacco. So someone might say, well, this is you just trying to pull wool over our eyes and basically to spin government and the legislators into saying we are a responsible industry, but at this point the horse has bolted.
I think there is definitely a need for regulation over the industry, and we're not saying that that shouldn't happen. I think what for me is, if you're looking at the position of where we are, it's an all of society approach that's needed. It's regulation, it's enforcement of that regulation, it's looking at community partners to work together to work towards responsible drinking consumption. So I don't think it's necessarily against policy. What we do want to do is make sure that we have sound policy that's going to allow the sustainability of the industry going forward, in contributing over 175 billion collectively across the value chain to the economics of this country.
Oh my God. So she is against the raising of the drinking age, and she opposes the banning of liquor advertising. And Katlego is calling Black people the degenerates and pointing fingers? And it gets even darker when you consider how this kind of narrative fuels real-world discrimination. Remember the racial tensions in Heartbeat sport? Wealthy Black South Africans moving into historically white areas have had their businesses burned down due to racism. When you have people like Katlego pushing the idea that Black people destroy neighborhoods and are financially irresponsible, it gives racists the justification they're looking for to keep Black people out of those spaces.
And it's even more sinister when you think about the Nobuntu Mkhize incident we covered before. Mkhize racially attacked a colored woman from Mitchell's Plain, saying she was beneath her. That was rightly condemned. But Citizen Concerned, they're essentially doing the same thing, but on a mass scale. And Chris, have you watched the video made by Katlego called "Whites Told Us That They Are Superior to Us"?
No, not yet. Could you tell us more about it?
Yes, sure, but better yet, here is a clip of the video. This is really outrageous, Chris. Listen to how she is praising her masters and riding their meat so hard.
A few days ago, my husband and I were talking to some friends. We spoke about an issue that I thought to myself, we definitely haven't spoken about this much on the channel, and it is an important issue to discuss. The reason why I thought it was important is this. Every now and then I find someone who accuses me or accuses someone else of being a self-hating Black. They accuse me of being a person that believes that white people are superior to Black people. The real truth is simpler than that. There's one thing that is a fact when it comes to superiority. It exists, whether you admit it or not. You can tell yourself that you're all for Black excellence, but the truth is, excellence does not live in your mouth. Excellence is not found in your head where you think about excellence. Excellence is found in what you stand for. Excellence is found in your behavior, your conduct. White people are not considered superior because of what they said to black people. Superiority is a measure of a few things. For one to consider one race superior to another is not about what that race says to you or what it does to you. It is about how that race conducts itself in general.
What do you think of such white supremacist utterances coming out of a black woman's mouth, Chris? It's clear she got her teleprompter script from neo-Nazi Eugene Terreblanche from beyond the grave. Note the argument about cultural superiority.
If we want to eradicate white supremacy once and for all, first we need to understand its history and the psychology behind it. White supremacy can be traced back to a combination of two major turning points in human history: colonization and the scientific revolution. When Europeans started to colonize the world around the 16th century, they ruthlessly killed and enslaved every indigenous population that they came across. The indigenous tribes were no match against European weaponry and power. And the Europeans concluded that if these tribes were so easily conquered, it must be because they were somehow inferior in power and intelligence. This boom in colonization happened to coincide with the European Age of Enlightenment, a time when European philosophers and thinkers were trying to explain the world through science instead of religion. One of the first things they tried to explain was this experience of superiority over other indigenous cultures. They wondered if there was a hierarchical order to nature based on race. They wondered if light-skinned people were perhaps more evolved than dark-skinned people. And just like that, a body of work called racial biology was born. Racial biology was basically an attempt to classify humanity as a hierarchy of inferior and superior races, with white men, naturally, at the top.
Superiority. It exists.
Have we never heard the Afroforum and Freedom Front Plus talking such?
Well, that hits the nail on the head and confirms what we've been saying all along. Katlego is nothing but a plant, and she is indeed reading from a teleprompter. And you know what stands out? The way Citizen Concerned has clearly adjusted its language since we first exposed their blatant racism. They don't say black people as explicitly or as often anymore.
Black people, black people, black people.
But the message remains the same. It's just been repackaged in coded language. I have no doubt that Roman Cabanach and the team behind Katlego have realized people like us are watching, and it's put a dent in how freely they can push their anti-black rhetoric. Katlego and her husband really should be getting tired of slurping up that white cock under the dinner tables with her so-called friends. And you know what else? The way they obsess over alcohol consumption in black communities is misleading. Alcoholism isn't just a black issue, it's a universal problem. In the U.S., where white people are the majority, it's white communities that lead in alcohol-related domestic abuse cases and drug consumption from across the Mexican border. The reason Katlego and the people behind her have so much dirt on black South Africans is because they're the majority. But if you applied that same logic in America, white Americans would be the primary culprits in every vice-related statistic.
My name's Dan. I'm 45 years old just recently, and I'm an alcoholic. See ya. I love beer. It doesn't matter what kind it is. My favorite beer is an open one.
Superiority.
He will drink until he either passes out or they're all gone and he's out of money. With $300, he can be drunk for days, and then that's when the sickness of the addiction really sinks in.
Gosh golly, holy jumping.
Right now, the FDA says a viable drug has to prevent any so-called heavy drinking days, which is more than 4 drinks a day for men and more than 3 for women.
So if you look at people coming into alcohol clinical trials looking for a medication, some of them are drinking upwards of 20 drinks a day. I mean, we have people in our samples coming in, people in our studies who are drinking 60, 70 drinks a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Superiority. It exists.
Drinking 60, 70 drinks a day.
And it's the weekend. Alcohol and loud music. Standard, right?
And so for them to reduce to 5 drinks or 6 drinks would be a huge success in my book.
Superiority.
And let's be clear, this isn't about helping Black South Africans. This is about controlling the narrative and keeping Black people in a cycle of self-blame while protecting the real economic exploiters. And to drive that point home, here are 7 key tactics citizen-concerned employs to manipulate their audience. Blame shifting. They focus entirely on Black South Africans' behavior while ignoring corporate and systemic exploitation. False comparisons. They juxtapose Black communities with Asian immigrants without acknowledging vastly different historical contexts and access to resources. Selective outrage. They criticize Black spending habits but stay silent on the white-owned corporations profiting from that spending. Coded language. They've toned down explicitly saying Black people, but continue pushing the same anti-Black rhetoric in subtle ways. Victim blaming. They present systemic oppression as a result of poor decision-making rather than deliberate policies of exclusion and discrimination. Distraction through respectability. Politics. They push the narrative that Black success can only come through assimilation into white economic models, disregarding Black cultural identity. Monetizing guilt. They shame Black viewers for their financial choices, then ask for donations to their channel, exploiting the very audience they criticize. By recognizing these tactics, we can dismantle their false narratives and push back against their harmful influence.
So, the question is, how do we fight back? First, stop supporting content that works against Black interests. If you're watching Citizen Concerned, don't engage. Second, support platforms that actually work towards Black economic empowerment. There are organizations working to close the wealth gap, fight land dispossession, and uplift Black business owners. Those are the voices that deserve attention and support.
And third, call out the manipulation when you see it. If you have family or friends who watch Citizen Concerned, break it down for them. Show them how they are being played.
This conversation doesn't end here. We want to hear from you. What do you think about Citizen Concerned's tactics? Have you seen similar narratives being pushed elsewhere? Drop a comment. Let's keep this discussion going.
And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep these conversations alive. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay critical of the media you consume.